Hello, my name is Joseph Carlson, and this is episode 276 of Gaming is Brief, and this is my year-end review. So we're going to do the year-end 2024 big review. I had changes that I went into the channel last year that I mentioned I wanted to maybe review fewer games, bigger games, stuff like that, and that's kind of what I did. I kept looking for quantity over quality. I think I'm trying to do quality this year, instead of quantity, because I don't have my old notes, but I think last year I did like 20-something games. This year I only did 7, but they were much bigger games and it took me much longer to beat these games. And I think I had a lot more to say about these games. And what I'll do in the show notes is I'll include the reviews for each of these episodes, because I know most people point up here and then they have a link for like, hey, go watch this video. But let's be honest, this isn't going to be like a 30-minute video essay. It's just going to be my rundown and me thinking about Game of the Year for 2024. And a lot of these games are a little bit older. Some of them are new, though. I think most of them came out last year, which is new for me. Again, a big change for the channel. Trying to be a little bit more current than I used to be. So let's talk about it. I'll give some dates and some context. And while I'm talking about each one of these things, I'm going to be talking about I'm going to show the launch trailers, and then as I'm going to look over my notes and just tell you my thoughts. And this is kind of going to be like a surprise video because I haven't actually circled which game is going to be Game of the Year, but we're going to find out at the end of this, again, not 30-minute video, but at the end of this video, we're going to find out what, in my opinion, was kind of the best game that kind of like articulated grief of what I played last year. So, without further ado, let's get to it. So the first game that I reviewed in 2024 came on January 15th. It was the episode that dropped January 15th, and it was God of War Valhalla. And I think what was great about Valhalla, and again in the show notes I'll include the episode, was not only was it a great examination of like Kratos' life, what he had been through. It was a great way to kind of contextualize a roguelike, the fact that he was doing this over and over again to learn a lesson. And the fact that, they try to do something more in story-wise with this game, and the fact that, I don't want to ruin the game. I want you to play the game. But I think also it being free, which just kind of blew me away. I think it was at a Game Awards or something. It said, by the way, we're coming out with this. If you own Ragnarok, it's free. Go play the game. So people did, and it kind of blew me away. Not only story-wise, like I said, contextualizing Kratos' life and kind of giving him life lessons along the way. Mimir was there as always, but also roguelikes. I said in my review, again, I'll include that in the show notes. But I did not understand roguelikes. It just did something in my brain. It didn't click. But something about just playing Ragnarok in that fall, and then playing Valhalla, and realizing these are choices. You make these choices, you die, you start again. And there is that one more run feeling, which I think a lot of good roguelikes capture. And I mentioned in my review, but I've been thinking about this more. I went back and played Hades because I just couldn't, again, understand roguelikes. But once I started playing Hades after Valhalla, everything clicked. And I mean, I know this is supposed to be a podcast about grief, but I think them taking like this element of do it over again. Sometimes we feel like that in life, like we're kind of going through the same things over and over again. And like, what lessons do you take from that? And I think Valhalla did a great job of saying this basically is for you, Kratos. He had friends, Mimir, some of the Valkyries were there, and they said, we'll be here with you. That was pretty amazing to me. It was amazing. It was a total package. And I remember just like having to sit and think with it, and think about, how it made me feel and stuff like that, which is, I think, the testament to any good game. So God of War Ragnarok is in the running. So that's the first one I did. The second one I did was Open Roads. It was actually April 1st. Imagine that. 2024. I reviewed that. This one I remember being like less impressed with. There is kind of like an overall mystery and like a little bit of grief. The mother and daughter relationship, although I'm a white male, I think it was written really well and it felt very genuine. Carol Danvers, not Carol Danvers. That's I'll play the trailer, or I am playing the trailer right now. Probably, I'm gonna play the trailer right now. You're listening. You're watching me play the trailer. The trailer basically has the names of the actresses. They did an amazing job. One of them was obviously in The Americans, Carrie Russell. And I want to see Cara Danvers, but I'm probably getting her name wrong. I feel bad. She seems like a very good actress. She's going to be in Last of Us Part 2. And I can't get her name right, so I apologize. I'm terrible. I will say I thought this was going to be... Plus, I think what kind of held this one back a little bit was it was only 2 hours. So you kind of have like these overall feelings about, oh, yeah, we're really going to dive into these people's internal lives. Which, again, not all games need to be 200 hours, 20 hours, whatever. But I felt that some of the themes, it was a good story, but they didn't really have a lot of time to examine kind of like the overall themes and stuff. So it was a good ending, but I don't think it really said anything kind of incredible about grief. It wasn't something where I walked away and said, wow, that was profound. I think actually that was one of the examples, and this is going to sound like a negative, but for me it was a positive, where I really started examining my podcast on the website and say, man, I really bust my butt to play this. Luckily, it was only 2 hours, but like, I'm kind of pulling up some goose eggs, like a goose egg out of some of the stuff. There isn't as much here, so like, what do? I don't have much time to kind of whatever, and so that's when I really said. So I guess in a good way, this game gets positive marks for me deciding how I want to change the website and the podcast and stuff. So. Kudos, Open Roads, I guess. The next game I played was Under the Waves. This was recommended. It was a big story about grief. A guy was a deep sea diver. I'll be playing the trailer again as I say this. Stan. I believe his name was Stan. This was very like a rote thing of like a... And I think at the time I was a little bit more negative on it, but I believe if I, having reflected on this list and things... What I think was pretty great was I think it's at the end of this, it very much was like a 101 grief thing of like, here's the things you need to take away 101 grief. I'm sad, maybe really reclusive in the beginning, but I reach out to his wife. They were estranged. Reaches out to her. He's under the ocean. He has dreams about his daughter who's passed away. All that stuff was like, I don't know if it was very like profound or articulated something new about grief. But it did kind of give bullet points for how kind of like, I guess you would consider like the general, and I'm being very general, not people, but the structure of how grief works with some people where there's a tragedy, you're a recluse. I mean, he's literally, under the ocean, goes away from the event, then kind of starts to reconnect with his wife, kind of puts everything to bed, has dreams about his daughter, and then kind of wakes up in the morning. I'll say it's longer than that, but he wakes up and then kind of says, "Okay, I'm ready to start living," which to me it's almost a trope. I think, which I'm going to be covering a game this year that I've been thinking about tropes a lot, and there's another trope in that game in the game I'm covering. But this game does have a trope of like, something bad happens, I have to remove myself from the situation, which is positive in a way, I know. Again, it's a trope. Sometimes tropes are already negative. The idea of taking a step back and saying, I don't want to say or do anything that I will regret. I need to be by myself. But maybe not taking that too far. I mean, I've obviously done that now. My wife and I went to therapy, so before that I was not a great person to be around. So I kind of get it, but at the end of the day, it didn't... I guess it did then articulate something about grief, just like these general tropes of like, this stuff does kind of happen. I mean, it happened with me. But I think the story-wise kind of ends in a way where you're like, yep. Like, again, nothing profound, but you're like, okay, yeah, so not negative. The game looks beautiful. I really like the art style. It's got like this weird abyss, like 70s art style. Everything's new, but it's old. You don't really know what year it is. Voice acting is very good. So yeah, that was, I guess it did win. Maybe I don't know if it's going to win Game of the Year, but, for 2024, but it did do something, I guess, unique, which is like, here's a trope. We're just going to explore the trope and we're going to do a good job exploring it. So, the next one was Tales of Kenzera Zao. I covered this game a lot. That review actually came out on May 27th. think a month after the game came out. It took me a while to beat it. I'm terrible at roguelikes. This was another, not even roguelikes, platformers. This isn't a roguelike, it's a platformer. I'm terrible at platformers. So, but, you know, I've covered this game a lot. Abu, the developer, he talked a lot. I showed the trailer in the Game Awards where he was talking about it. This was helping him deal with his dad. You know, he was crying. He was near tears. Played the game. Not only, I think, was an amazing, something we don't really see, like that kind of Afro-future, you know, like technology and stuff. Past all the gameplay and him meeting Kalunga, the god of death, what I really loved about this game was that was all very moving. You know, he would go to like the grove or the trees, like the sanctuary trees, and rest, and you'd have this moment where he'd reflect on his father. That was all so good, but I think what I liked more was him, like the basically the prologue and the epilogue, when he was back talking to his mother in his home, seeing things from his childhood, reading things of his father's. I think he read his dad's diary, telling his dad's story, which again is a trope. Hey, let me tell your story. But it was so beautiful and so heartfelt. And, you know, the platform was great. Again, I'm not great at platforming, but some of the stuff I pulled off in the game was crazy. And in fact, I did the one hand tied behind my back when I did the boss battle because I realized I didn't have a lot of your like chargeable resources where you hit people and you charge a meter and you can get more meters so you can do more stuff. And I didn't do that. I had like 2 meters or 3. So really, when I was going to platinum the game, which I did, at the end I was like, I have a lot more. I probably should have done the bosses with these because I really did a bad job. But no, I mean, just the overall tone of it makes me better or want to play more platformers, and just like the reflection of grief about like, not even that like this is over, but like this has happened, which I think there's an atonement for that, or like like an awareness or like a presence you have to have and focus to be like, this is happening to me right now. I need to deal with this. And I think that game did it really well. Again, it was kind of the total package like Valhalla, where it said, hey, we're going to, you know, we're going to do this. One game I forgot, again, that I played a lot last year before I got to back up a bit. I was going to do this in order, but I guess I've totally screwed this. I played Banishers Ghosts of New Eden. Now, I've covered this game a lot. I did like 3 reviews for it. I went back and played it more. I don't know how people beat that game in 30 hours. I just kept finding things to do in that game. Looking back on it, I don't think it's going to win Game of the Year, but because I played it so much. But I will say it constantly hits this theme because there's so many ghosts that you investigate in the game, being like a Ghostbuster basically, and deciding, I'm going to help these people. And there's all these stories of death, betrayal, sickness, revenge, and I think it kind of gives this, I think I even said in my review, it gives this whole package of like, let's look at all these things. And in many cases, not every case, but many cases, does a great job articulating what those people are going through and says some really profound things. Later in the game, I don't know if I talked about it in any review. Maybe I should. I think I showed the video of it in one of my reviews, where one of the people you help, it's like you can see ghosts, which is very rare in the world of Banishers Ghosts of New Eden. But you decide to help her with something, and then you basically send her on her way to be a Banisher, which I thought was really unique. I think Antea says that, like in the game, she says it's really rare to do it when you're older. Yeah, I just was like, the more I dug into the game, it has a little bit of the AA jank where like things, maybe the combat isn't tight, you get stun locked a little bit, but just the sheer volume of things you can do and upgrade. I mean, it's I feel bad, not that the studio did poorly. I hope it sold well, but they said they spent like 5 years on it, I think. And with studio closures in 2024 being really crazy, it's, I hope everybody there is doing good, I guess, is my thing. So Banishers Ghost of New Eden, that came out on February 26th was my review. So I know I just talked about Tales of Kenzera, but I'm going to go back to June 17th, which was Destiny 2: The Final Shape. And this one for me, like, really came out of left field. I didn't think it was going to be I thought it was going to be a shooter. I've been playing Destiny for a long time, but I'm a filthy casual. So everybody watching this and says, "What's going on, man? I thought you said you played Destiny. I'm looking at your footage. It's terrible." I'm pretty bad, but this did a thing with Zavala and like his family, and not only that, but the idea that like Destiny was kind of coming to an end. And reading the news lately, it seems like they've lost players, and that the community kind of has this sense of, almost grief. This game's been around for what, a decade? 2014, 2015. So like the idea that you're no longer going to be able to play, like what's going to happen with Destiny, and that was kind of in the story too of the Final Shape, the fact that the Witness wanted to kind of freeze everybody in this kind of like Destiny Amber to stop death and stop the cycle of life, and from what I could tell, it kind of depressed him. This idea of like everything lives, everything dies, and he was despondent, I guess would be the word. And it really came out of left field that this was going to be a big examination of grief. Cade 6 comes back and is resurrected. I don't really want to spoil anything, but it's in a lot of their marketing material. And it is, he reflects on like why he's back. Like, why was I resurrected out of it? Everybody, they experiment with the idea of like your ghost being destroyed, and so then you can't be resurrected. So maybe it was a time when life felt cheap because you could be resurrected, but now it meant something, and then that kind of goes away. And it's just one of those things that just kind of came out of left field, and that I didn't think a game like Destiny, not that it couldn't, but I didn't think it would cover something as extraordinary as grief. And yeah, again, it blew me away. I played it a lot. I like dip in and out of Destiny. I probably need to go back and do the episodes. So I probably need to do that. The last one I played this year was Senua Saga, Hellblade 2. This was probably the one I was most disappointed in, because it felt like it wasn't clear, because in my opinion, Senua is an unreliable narrator. And I heard some theories online saying, well, maybe this all just happened in her head. Maybe she didn't go into this journey to a land like sets up in the trailer where she goes to save her people because they've been enslaved and taken to somewhere. I don't know if there's a name for it. Or the land, the north, whatever. It felt like it was a lot of, I don't know, it didn't feel, because everything was so unreliable and she's hallucinating. The first game examined psychosis. There was a special on the second game, if I remember right, and they were trying to double down more on psychosis, but it didn't feel like it. The first one very clearly felt like that's what they were going for. They had a documentary afterwards where you heard people's stories. Things started to fall into place in the first game. The second game, I didn't feel that. I know, again, there was a documentary. They talked to those people again. I think many of them, their recovery, their treatment was going well. But it felt like it was a beautiful game. But it just, because she was unreliable and it didn't feel like it was really sticking to the mental health thing, it didn't have the impact that I wanted to have. And I was kind of depressed, to be honest, when I played it. It was a slog. It's probably a 5 or 6 hour. Like every chapter, I think there's six chapters, and every chapter is about an hour. And I remember just looking at the clock. And then after a while, I gave up and was looking at a walkthrough, trying to figure out how much more time I had, which is not something you ever want to do when you are doing something that you supposedly like. You want to, oh man, I have to quit. I gotta go to the store, but I was in the middle of this boss fight. I was in the middle of this book. Man, this movie's really good. We gotta pause it. We gotta go somewhere. And, Hellblade 2 was just one of those games where I was like, when is this over? Which is the worst thing to think when you're playing a game. So it's definitely not going to make. In fact, I'm on my notes right now. I'm going to cross it. I'm going to cross it out. It's not there. So I don't do drum rolls. It's too loud. Drum rolls are too loud. But looking over this list, I think, man, I hate to say it, but God of War Ragnarok, Valhalla. I think Valhalla wins. Just because every time I see a clip from that, I think about it more and more. I think it would be cheap to make Banishers the game, because I covered it so much. Those Banishers are runner-up, just because I think there's so much, right? But I think because Valhalla can focus on Kratos, instead of all the good things that Banishers says about grief, I think Valhalla, fine points, puts that in You know what? It's got to be Banishers. You know why? Well, you know what? Whatever. I played it. I was going to say, because I think Valhalla came out like December, Christmas Day or something, so it didn't come out in January. So it wouldn't be, traditional game of the year rules. It's got to come out in the calendar year. I don't care about that. I don't do that here. Besides, some of these games are, some of the older games I played are like years old, so we're not doing that. So it's got to be Valhalla just because of its laser focus on Kratos' journey. So again, Banishers, guys, are like right there, and I know it focuses on Red and Antia, but I think because it kind of goes wide with other people, which is great. Again, man, it was close. I think I said that too, that it might be my game of the year. But really taking a step back and thinking about this, look, I think it's Valhalla just because it focuses on Kratos, and you're able to laser focus on one person. So yeah, congratulations to the two people that are watching this, and nobody in particular. And Santa Monica Studios. You guys do great work. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. That's my game of the year. Valhalla won it. God of War Valhalla. A free DLC for a game that won game of the year. Again, no one cares. The three people that are watching this are going to be like, I'm never going to play that game. Anyway, that's it. I'll see you guys next month. And, new year, new games. So have a good month, everybody.